I usually only do a reading update every couple of months, and my last update was at the end of December. But I've had a really good reading month to start off the year, so I'd like to talk about the books that I've read this month, and I have a few other things to mention as well. So let's get right into it. So let me start off by talking about the books I've read in the month of January, starting with my favorite author, his newest release, Halcyon Years by Alastair Reynolds. So I'm not going to do a full review of this on the channel, and that's because I'm going to direct you over to Robin's channel, Bookspin, where Robin, me, and Audrey from Audrey Approved had a really good discussion about this book. And so I don't think there's anything more that I would have to say in a review. So if you want to know what I thought of it and what Robin and Audrey thought as well, go ahead and go on over to Robin's channel and check out that video discussion. I will add the link to it below. And if you haven't subscribed to Robin yet, please go over to his channel, Bookspin. He's got some great science fiction content. He's got a mix of classic and vintage sci-fi, and he goes over some modern sci-fi as well. And he's got some great reviews on there of all the books that he's read, and he has some author interviews as well. So he's got one of my favorite channels on booktube. So I would encourage you, if you're a fan of this channel, if you subscribe to my channel, I think you would enjoy Robin's channel as well. And like I said, I'll add a link to his channel below in the description, and you can head over there and check out our conversation of Halcyon Years, and also look into some of Robin's other videos. And as far as Halcyon Years goes, I'll give a brief description of it. It is about a private investigator named Yuri Gagarin, who is on board this generation starship called the Halcyon, and he is hired by a mysterious woman named Ruby Blue to investigate a couple of accidental deaths that have occurred aboard the ship. And from there, we have a series of mysteries that unfold throughout the novel. It's got a very crime noir feel to it, a kind of a murder mystery thriller set on a spaceship. So it's a really fast-paced story. It was a very entertaining read, and I would definitely recommend Halcyon Years, especially if you're already a fan of Reynolds. But if you want to dig down more into what this is about, go over and check that discussion on Robin's channel. There are no spoilers in it, so you can enjoy that discussion without the fear of getting spoiled for the plot or anything like that. But it was a good read. It was the first one I read this year, and it's a great book to start the year off with. The second book I read this year was one of my favorite authors, and that is Adrian Tchaikovsky's Alien Clay. And this book is one of his more recent releases. It was released in 2024. And I also picked up this nice broken binding edition. So it's got the different artwork from the original cover. It's got the painted edges. And it's also signed by Adrian. So it's a really nice copy to have, and it just so happens that the book was really good as well. And I won't talk too much about this, kind of similar to Halcyon Years. I won't get too deep into it in this video because I did do a full review of this on the channel. So I'll link that below in the description. And if you're interested in seeing a review for Alien Clay, go ahead and check that out. But this one is essentially, it's a science fiction novel set on an alien planet. It is a hostile planet where political prisoners are sent from Earth. So it's a very political book. I think probably the majority of the plot revolves around this political situation that's happening with these prisoners that are sent to this labor camp, and they're kind of forced to interact with this alien biology in ways that they probably wouldn't want to otherwise. And then so we have this kind of political, kind of a rebellion, uprising against the leaders of the camp plot situation going on, and that takes a lot of the focus on the book. But we also have this really interesting look at this alien world where the life there, the biology of the aliens, is very different from what we're used to. It is kind of a world of parasites and symbiotes that live, and so one like biological unit would be kind of a collection of different species all put together. And so like the eye of an animal could actually be a different species entirely. Its leg could be a different species. Its organs are different species. All of these kind of come together to work together to form a biological unit in this really strange and weird ecosystem. So my favorite parts of the books were when Adrian was exploring that alien world, but that doesn't mean the political plot wasn't good as well. I thought the plot line with the labor camp and kind of the rebellion that's brewing there is really good. Is a really good story. It's really fast paced and it was interesting. It's suspenseful, and then you have added in this really interesting alien world as well. So it's another book that I would recommend. And like I said before, if you want to see the full review for this, go ahead and check that one out on my channel. So after reading Reynolds and Tchaikovsky, they're both very recent releases, I decided to step back into some more vintage sci-fi. So I read The Gentle Giants of Ganymede. And this book is the sequel to Inherit the Stars by James P. Hogan. It is a hard science fiction novel, and so if you've read Inherit the Stars, I think you'd probably enjoy this one as well. So this one kind of follows the setup from the first novel, and we have this team of scientists on Ganymede that have found a ship frozen in the rock, and it has all these clues from the past. It has evidence of prehistoric animals from Earth in it. It has like artwork and murals from a completely different planet and a different culture, and it has all this evidence of an alien species that has advanced technology in it. And a lot of this was covered in the first book, so that's when all this was discovered. And what happens is, while these scientists are still they're continuing their investigations, their studies of this ship and the history of this other planet in the solar system that is inhabited by the Ganymedes, and there's also this angle with some humans that lived on this planet, and then they went over to the moon, and so they call them the Lunarians. And there's some unanswered questions about the past and how this different planet that was in the solar system fit together with the Lunarians and the Ganymedes. And this was some like 25 million years ago. And so the first part of this book was kind of boring because it rehashes a lot of what's in the first book, and that does get a little tedious. But once we get through that, so the Ganymedes actually show up back into the solar system, so they have been missing for however long, and it's this group of Ganymedes who I won't really get into why they're coming back or who they are with relation to the rest of the species. But the spaceship shows up, they get in contact with the scientists on Ganymede, and they start kind of a first contact situation that's kind of interesting, but they very quickly are able to understand each other and translate the language and things. So there's not like this barrier of an extremely alien species. This is a very humanoid species of alien. They are able to understand and communicate with the scientists really quite easily, so it's not the kind of novel where you get kind of a strange first contact scenario. It's more of a kind of a Star Trek first contact scenario almost. And one of the things I did like about this book is that so the Ganymedes they're a benevolent species. So they're called of course the Gentle Giants of Ganymede. So this is a very gentle race. They are very giving, they are very cooperative. They abhor violence. They have this interesting kind of prehistoric history that they kind of talk a little bit about with the scientists here, the human scientist, that kind of explains why their temperament is the way that it is. And so I think it was kind of a really interesting take because this isn't a hostile alien. It's a very friendly alien species, and there's no threat of like war or violence or anything like that. This is just a story of kind of a hard science approach to figuring things out, figuring out the past, using the scientific method to the benefit of both humanity and this alien species. And while I did think that some of the science in here was outdated, it was written, I mean, this was written almost 50 years ago. So some of the things we know about, like how the moon was formed and the evolution of us, of Homo sapiens, weren't known at the time that James Hogan wrote this. So he kind of fills in the gaps on some of those issues. So the science is a little bit outdated, but I don't think that's harmful to the book at all. I think it's still a good book. And it's a hard science book because of the approach that it takes to science and to figuring things out. It doesn't take the scientific method for granted. It gives a realistic approach to the scientific method and how useful it can be in figuring out problems and things like that. So I really like that about these old hard science fiction novels. I feel like we don't get as much as that in modern day writing. The scientific method and hard science is often kind of set aside for what sounds cool and neat. And while that can be fun with modern sci-fi, I do really appreciate when an author knows his science and knows how the scientific method is applied and can weave that in an interesting way into a science fiction plot full of different science concepts and things like that. So I think if you enjoyed the first book, you're probably going to like this book as well. And does set some things up for another sequel. So there is a third book in this trilogy called The Giant Star. And I think overall I'm going to give this book a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And it is also going to be a recommended read from me. So the next book I read is another one that I really enjoyed. And it's one that was released in 2016 and is now getting re-released in hardcover. And that is the Bobbyverse books, starting with We Are Legion, We Are Bob by Dennis Taylor. And so this is the newly released hardcover of this, and it's a really nice copy. So I picked this one up and hadn't read it yet, and figured what better time to start reading than when you have a nice new edition of the book. This is another one where I'm not going to talk too much about it because I will have a review coming out soon. I haven't put it out yet, but I will be reviewing this novel in full, and I'm going to have that review out in the next couple of weeks probably. But if you're not aware of the Bobbyverse books, so this is kind of a fun, lighthearted, sometimes humorous take on von Neumann machines. So this software engineer named Bob gets revived after a time being cryogenically frozen. And he figures out that his mind has been uploaded into a computer, and he is essentially an uploaded intelligence now. And he is going to be used for a von Neumann probe. His mind is going to be put into a spaceship and sent off to other solar systems. From there to gather resources, to replicate himself, and then explore further into more solar systems. So he goes out and he clones himself, and there are all these different Bobs as he spreads throughout the stars near Earth. And it has a lot of references to old science fiction media like Star Trek and the Alien film franchise, and all different kinds of other references in it. So if you like books if you like Ready Player One, you probably like this. If you like John Scalzi or Andy Weir or Edward Ashton, you'd probably like this book. It's not a hard science fiction book, but it does have kind of an engineer's approach to science, which I really liked about it. And it's going to be another recommended read for me. And I will be talking more about this in a future video, so be on the lookout for that. So the last book I read this month was a novella called One Level Down by Mary Thompson. And this was a 2025 release. It is about a simulated reality situation where this 5-year-old girl is living in this simulated world, but it turns out that she is actually like 58 years old, and her dad has created her because his real daughter died, and so he created this girl named Ella, and he forces her to be 5 years old forever. And so it's kind of this really bad situation where this guy named Phil, who is her dad, has control of this simulated universe, in that he is able to delete and change the parameters of all the humans living in the simulation. So it's kind of like a colony of people that live here because they went off to this planet that they were going to colonize. It turned out colonizing this exoplanet was a lot more difficult than they expected. So then they ended up all going into this simulated world to live instead. But this guy, Phil, got it into a corporate contract with a company that creates these simulated universes, that he has control over other people in it. So if they upset him in some way, he can just delete them. And he also created this little girl, Ella, and he forces her to behave like a child or he'll get upset. It's almost kind of a tyrannical situation, and this guy is almost a brutal dictator of this simulated reality, where like all the other characters like are very careful not to upset this man and things like that. And Ella is trying to figure out a way to escape. So I won't go too much more into it than that. It's a short read. It's like 160 pages. I thought it was a very fast-paced read. I enjoyed it. I haven't read too many simulated reality books, so it was kind of interesting to read something in that subgenre. And I did enjoy this one. I think I'd probably recommend it. And it also goes into some things about our own universe as well, and answers to how we could break the laws of physics and that sort of thing. So it goes into some kind of interesting areas as we get into the last part of the book. I'm going to go ahead and give this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars. I'm not going to be doing a full review of the book on this channel, but I would go ahead and recommend it and put it in that 3.5 range. It was a good book, fast-paced, quick read. I think you could read it in an afternoon, and I thought it was an interesting take on the simulated reality type of story. So those are the 5 books that I've read this month. So next I'd like to talk about kind of my TBR for the month. As I've said in other videos, I'm not much of a TBR planner, so this is kind of a TBR. It's only 2 books. I usually am a mood reader, so I don't like to plan my TBR too far in advance. But I am going to be reading, at the time of this video is released, I will be reading Matt Dinniman's new novel, Operation Bounce House. And some of you may be already aware, Matt Dinniman is the author of the very popular new series, Dungeon Crawler Carl. I have not read any of the Dungeon Crawler Carl books, and I don't know if I ever will. I don't really have too much interest in it because I think it's more on the fantasy side. I do like fantasy, but I just, from what I've seen, it's not that type of fantasy is not really what I'm into. But if I like this book enough, I may decide to go ahead and check those books out as well. So in this new book that he has out, it's a lot more of a science fiction read, and I will be reading an advanced reader's copy of the book. So I'm going to try to have a review out very near the release date of it. And this book is going to be releasing on February 10th, so not too long from now. And I'd like to have a review out sometime during this month. But it sounds like kind of an interesting, fun novel. From the description of this one, it is about a man who must fight for his planet against impossible odds from gamers who would like to remotely annihilate the Earth. So yeah, that kind of sounds interesting. It's got this gamer aspect, so I'm assuming it's going to be kind of one of those lighthearted novels. Maybe there's some comedy in it. Like I said, I haven't read Matt Dinniman before, so I don't know what kind of stories he writes. I'm guessing there's going to be a lot of references and callbacks to science fiction culture and things like that, similar to We Are Legion, We Are Bob. And it sounds like it's kind of a virtual reality game that has some some real world stakes as far as the Earth is concerned and things like that. So, I'm kind of intrigued by it, and it's of course it's a new release, so I'm eager to get into that and see what it's like, and hopefully we can get a review out for that fairly soon. Another book on my TBR is going to be me stepping back into some more vintage science fiction. One of the things that I'd like to do more this year is read more vintage sci-fi. So I'm going to be reading The Star Droppers by John Brunner. And so I have quite a few John Brunner books, but I've never read any of them. And I'm going to be starting with The Star Droppers. And one of the reasons why I will be reading this one is because I'll be doing a buddy read with Ira from SF Words of Wonder. So I did a buddy read with Ira a couple months ago, and we read a more modern science fiction book, and we read The Strange by Nathan Ballingrud. So if you haven't already, go check that out on Ira's channel. And Ira kind of proposed this idea where I gave him some suggestions of more modern sci-fi and went on his channel to talk about it. And then we were going to do another one where he gave me some suggestions of more classic and vintage science fiction. So he gave me a few choices, and The Star Droppers was one of them. And so I went and picked that out because, like I said, I'd have quite a few Bruners, but haven't read any of them. I thought this one sounded kind of interesting. It's sounds kind of like a spy novel in the future, and it's about this interesting piece of technology that has begun to make people disappear, and this agent is sent in to investigate what's going on. So I'm really excited to read that with Ira, and it is a DAW book. It's DAW number 23. So I'm not sure when we're going to be doing this as far as the exact date. Probably in the second half of February or early March. Maybe we'll try to get that the second half of February, so sometime this month. But if you haven't subscribed to Ira's channel, please go and check out his channel. He's got a lot of great vintage science fiction content on there. He does really good book reviews. And he has this amazing collection of vintage science fiction that he shares with us a book haul pretty much every month, I think. And he's another one of my favorite booktubers. So if you haven't subscribed to him yet, I think you'd probably really enjoy his content. And I will be adding a link in the description below to his channel. And I think this discussion will be a lot of fun. So I'll be looking out for that in the future, sometime this month on this channel. Alright, so that's all I've got for this month, this reading update. Let me know in the comments if you've read any of these books. Let me know what you've been reading for the month of January. Did you have a good reading start to the year? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time.